Well, that's not necessarily a problem because the warm-up part at the beginning, you can either do that standing or you can do it sitting down. So for instance, if you have a stool that you can sit on, you could just sit and do the turning the waist exercise in this fashion. And certainly the rest of the exercise set that we're going to do this morning, it is about standing meditation, but that can always be done sitting as well. And so the idea about this class is that it's completely sort of adaptable. It can work for anybody. Even lying down would be, fine as well. And so the class is designed to be completely adaptable for everybody. So what we'll do is we'll go through the first 15 minutes of just a very gentle warm up. And as I say, you can do that sitting or lying down, or you can just wait until that part of the class is over. And then we're going to go into some very, very simple standing meditation, but that can also be done sitting as well.
Fantastic.
Oh, great. Okay, so I'm just going to mute, make sure everybody's muted. Asked to mute, sorry. Yep, that's it, you're muted. So I think everybody's muted now. Okay. So yes, we'll talk a little bit, I will talk a little bit as we go along about how this class is going to work. Okay, so we start with our feet at shoulder width and we bend our knees gently. We just have our back nice and straight. So if you want to do this sitting down, you can use a stool would be fine, but also just try and get that straight back still when you're sitting down. And then we're just going to gently turn the waist from side to side. So it's about the waist, not about the shoulders. So try and get the waist to turn to one side and the waist to turn to the other side. Just leave the arms completely relaxed and let them tap onto the body. So this first 15 minutes is dedicated to doing very simple warm-up exercises. There's a reason behind that, which I'll say in a moment, but essentially the first part of a Qigong set is often about what they call Qi disrupting, would be the technical term. It's about getting the Qi kind of moving in your body. So the idea is that sometimes we find that, well, it's not sometimes, it's always, when we go to sleep, when we're leading a sort of sedentary lifestyle, the Qi in the body tends to kind of pool in the bigger muscles. So in your thighs and in the back of the arms and things like that, especially when you're asleep. And when you start to move, that gets all the Qi flowing around the body again. So if at all possible, it's very good to do these exercises just to get the blood and the Qi flowing well around the body. And of course, if the Qi is flowing well around the body, Qi, Chinese medicine, leads the blood. And so where the Qi flows, the blood flows. Where the blood flows, the nutrients and the oxygen in your blood goes with it. And eventually, that's how we sort of bring about healing in our body. And if you think about it from time to time, if you were to whack your elbow against something, the first thing you do is you look at it and you rub it, you examine it. And by bringing all of your attention to your elbow, that's how you start the healing process for it. And so we naturally have this idea of, staring at something we've just banged and giving it a good rub. And that encourages Qi to flow to that area. Well, these exercises do exactly the same kind of thing. They're encouraging the Qi to start flowing around your body, getting the blood flowing around the body. And, I've suddenly been compelled to tell you one of the tips that my teacher, Lou, said to me. He said, when you get out of bed, don't just jump straight out of bed. He said, get out of bed, you just make yourself sit on the edge of the bed for a minute or two. And then he said, it's a very important moment. And I find it's one of the most important moments of my day. I just swing my feet over the side of the bed and I sit there for a few moments and I just rearrange my thoughts and I think about my day. I set my intentions for my day. I plan quickly in my head what I want to do and how it's going to go. And in the same kind of, process of planning, I'm also thinking to myself, this is going to be a good way to do it. It's going to be a good day. So I have a sort of positive affirmations. But by doing that, you give your Qi a chance to start moving in the body. So if it's been, in your thighs, buttocks, back of your arms, because you've been sort of sleeping on your back, then it starts to move around the body and it can start to move the blood around the body. And of course, there's this story, this fact, that most people have strokes at 7:23 in the morning, apparently, is the moment of danger, the average moment of danger, because people tend to wake up and think, right, oh God, I've got to go and do this. And so they leap straight out of bed. The chi's not flowing well, the blood is not flowing well, there's not enough blood in the brain, and then someone has a stroke. And so it's always important to reorganize your body from sleeping through this kind of liminal moment back into standing, as it were. So don't rush out of bed if that's your habit. Just give yourself 2 minutes. And we're doing the same thing with these exercises. So, my daily routine is I sit on the side of the bed, I organize my head, I organize my day, I stand up, and then I go into my study, which is next door, and I do my morning exercises. Before I've spoken to my wife, before I've looked at the phone, before I've picked up, switched on a computer, before I've even switched on a light switch, to be fair. The first thing I do in the morning is just to do my exercises straight away. I don't let anything get in the way of that. It doesn't matter if I'm getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the airport, if I'm getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning for a normal day, I'll still make sure that I have even a short, 5 or 10 minutes just to do my exercises, because that's about bringing me back to myself and organizing my day. So that ties in with this idea of getting the chi moving. So here we are, getting our chi moving. And even if you can only do a fraction of the exercise, it's still a useful thing to do. Even if you're doing a very small, delicate one because your back is hurt, whatever it might be. And when we get to doing the forward bends, it's the same story. And you might only choose to do a tiny version of the forward bend. The only thing that I ask about those is that if you decide to limit the amount of exercise you're doing, or if you are required to limit the amount of exercise you're doing, do the full exercise in your mind. So you may only be turning a tiny bit at the moment because your back is sore, but imagine your whole back can open and turn. Imagine that you can do the whole exercise. And so you do the small physical version and your mind does the full landscaped version, as it were, landscape view. So let's move on to the second part of this exercise. Stretch out a little bit further, open up, look over the shoulders, use the neck to stretch. Okay, so, right. The story about today is we're just going to do simple standing Qigong with a simple La Chi visualization. It's the most vanilla, most basic exercise that Dr. Pang suggests people use. And I think probably it's a good idea just to tell you about my Qigong journey briefly. I had a very stressful life in the city. My then wife said to me, oh gosh, you should try doing something to calm your life down. And so I started doing yoga with her, but I didn't find that yoga worked particularly well for me, especially back in the sort of late 80s when you were the only guy in a whole yoga class. It was quite a difficult place to be. And then moving on to the next few years, I did Tai Chi. I studied various different Tai Chi forms. And whilst I thought, I'd found what I was looking for, I also found it very pernickety and very, I don't know, I always try and draw the analogy of the difference between a whippet and a greyhound, or a sort of, a proper sort of working dog, like I don't know, they had lovely sort of, not sheepdogs, because they're also a bit twitchy, but perhaps something like a Labrador. And I find that Qigong is much more dependent like a Labrador. And then I found Tai Chi a bit too kind of like a whippet, kind of a bit nervous and a bit delicate. And so Tai Chi didn't quite work for me. That's only a personal choice. But I found that Qigong was much more reasonable, dependable. You could just drop in and do bits of it and so forth. So I settled with Tai Chi, with Qigong. And my first Qigong teacher, I read many books before I met him, but my first proper Qigong teacher was a man called Master Lam. You may remember Master Lam was quite famous on the TV for a little while. And he had a little 6-part course on Channel 4, I think, where he did some standing Qigong. Anyway, I didn't see it, but I ended up at his class a few years later. And he basically had about 20 or 30 people in a big room in Lambeth. And we stood around in a big circle. And Master Lam said, okay, begin practice. And everybody went into a shoulder width posture and put their hands in front of them in a circle. And then they stood there for an hour while he went away and read the newspaper or did some spreadsheets in his office. And from time to time, he'd come in and change the audio cassette that was playing, which was basically side A or side B of the Chinese National Symphonia plays ABBA. It was a very special kind of torture. And I often wondered if he realized, did he just only have one cassette? Did he really like ABBA? Was he particularly into Chinese stringed instruments, whining away? And it was, the sort of the tension on a sort of a Western ear, this kind of Chinese-ified music. There were many things that were there to, it seems, to put you off standing Qigong. First, the soundtrack, second, the lack of attention, and third, the difficulty of just standing for an hour and doing nothing. And a lot of people would spend a couple of weeks with Master Lam, and then they'd just disappear, never come back. And I felt like doing that 100 times. I thought to myself, oh, I'm never coming back to this class again. Oh my God, he never looks after, and gossiping with the other students. He never does anything, and we have to pay. And that was back, 20, 35 years ago. He was charging £15 a class then. For your reference, I only charge £12 a class now, 25 years later. So it was an exorbitant class where you were, in the modern parlance, disrespected. And that was all part of it. It was like the old story of having to spend 3 years brushing the master's steps before he shows you anything. And that was it. His whole thing was about weeding out people who couldn't hack it. And then eventually, if you stayed long enough, Master Lam would teach you his family forms. Anyway, so we're going to do standing Qigong today, and I'll explain a little bit more about why in a moment. Let this whole exercise subside, slow down, come to a stop. Great. Now, that can make you feel quite dizzy. So this exercise is about calming. Lift the hands up above the head and gently pour the hands down through the body. So imagine your Qi hands can move down through your Qi body and just bring about some sort of balance. So if you're feeling slightly lightheaded and a little bit dizzy, this is the exercise. And you can do it 10, 20 times if you want. But normally it only takes about sort of 2 or 3 times of gently brushing down to bring you back into some sort of semblance of balance. We're trying to bring all of our focus into the core of our body, deep into the belly. And then we feel this kind of connection like a circuit down into the ground. Let's just go again, lifting up. And then gently pouring down, drawing the Qi deep into the belly. Letting the hands relax. Okay, so we're going to do a series of forward and back bends. Just be careful with your back, take it nice and easy. So the first exercise just sees us do a lift up as we've just done, stretch the hands up into the blue sky, nice long stretch. And then when your arms are beside your ears, we work on the top of the neck first. So just tipping over the top of the neck. The body is more or less straight. And now we can arch the upper back, arch the middle back, arch the lower back. And how low can you go down? Just see what your back's prepared to do for you today. There's no pressure, no tension. You just go wherever you can manage. You keep the knees nice and soft, and you try and relax the back of the neck as much as possible. So very often when we do this stance, we're sort of lifting up our heads to see if we can look at the screen, see what everybody else is doing. But what we're trying to do is just really relax the back of the neck and just trust that you've got it right. There's no problem with that. The body can gently hang here, gently relax. So you can imagine your foot split into 4 sections. First of all, we gently stretch down towards the toes. So a little bit of an extension towards the toes and then release. The next line is at the root of your toes. Gently stretch down towards that and release. The next line is in between your insteps. So as you can see, we're gradually getting deeper with each bend and release. And the last line is between your heels. Stretch towards that and release. Good. Just let the arms hang down, let the head hang down. Okay, to get ourselves standing upright, we use a little technique. Point your tailbone right up into the blue sky behind you. You'll feel your legs stretch a little bit. And then swing your tailbone towards the front of the body and start to assemble vertebra by vertebra by vertebra. When you're about 2/3 of the way up, join your arms and your ears and try and bring them up in a coordinated way. And that brings a little extra stretch to the nape of the neck. up into the blue sky. Okay, let the knees and hips drift gently forwards and you can lean back. Stretching up and gently lean back. Stretching up and gently lean back. Stretching up and gently lean back. Okay, so the last part of this bending set is just doing a side bend. Let the left hand drift downwards, gently arch the right over the top of the head. Just feel the right side of the body sort of gently opening. It's as if the left hand is kind of stretching towards the back of the left knee. And then we do the right side. Right hand goes down, left side of the body gently opens. There's a sort of a tiny little backward incline included here. So it's slight back and sideways. Down on the left side. And down on the right side. Very good. So you've seen everything there. We're going to run through that stretching set again 3 more times. Stretch hands up into the blue sky. Okay, so this thing about the arms and ears, we don't kind of press the arms and ears together so your head's squeezed between your forearms. We're just trying to coordinate them at the same time. So gently tipping over arms and ears at the same time, that does the top of the neck. And when the arms are parallel, then we can start to arch our upper back, middle back, lower back, sink down. Just let the body hang down there and relax. Take all the pressure off the back of the neck. Okay, so our first little stretch sees us go down towards the toes, gently extending down and release. Stretching down in line with the roots of your toes. And then release. Stretching down in line with your insteps. And release. Stretching back in line with the heels. Nice deep bend. And release. Let the body hang. Gently lift the tailbone up behind. Gently push the tailbone towards the front of the body. Slowly roll the body up, stacking the spine up. Bring up the arms and the ears as one piece. Stretching up into the blue sky. Let the knees and hips drift forward. You lean backwards. Stretch up. Gently back. Stretch up. And gently back. Stretch up. And gently back. Great. Hands up into the blue sky. Let's just drift down. Left hand down. Right arm arcs over. You can feel the whole sort of right side of the body open. Let's go down on the right side. Open up on the left. Down on the left. Opening the right. Down on the right. Opening up the left. Stretch hands up into the blue sky. Okay, so we're going to do the same set again, but this time we can try and do it with our legs straight if you wish. You don't have to, but if you lock the legs, it's just going to give an extra hamstring stretch. So we stretch up into the blue sky, and then we lock the knees straight, and we gently tip over the head, the arms, the ears, working your way down. So you can always release this stretch if it doesn't suit you, but we're just trying to open up the hamstrings and get the chi flowing in the back of the legs. Tucking the tummy in slightly, relaxing the back of the neck slightly. Just let the body hang here. Let's extend softly down towards the toes. And release. In line with the roots of our toes. And release. Working towards the insteps. And release. Working towards the heels. The body relaxes and hangs. Lift the tailbone up behind, push the tailbone gently to the front, start to roll the spine up, the head, the arms, the ears gently follow up, stretch up into the blue sky, nice long stretch. Drifting the knees and hips forward, you lean back. stretching up and gently back, up, gently back, up, and gently back. Great. Hands up into the blue sky. Left hand curls down, right side of the body open. Right hand curls down, left side of the body open. Down on the left. And down on the right. Stretch hands up into the blue sky. Last time through. Straight legs, tip over the head, the arms, the ears. Upper back, middle back, lower back. Body relaxes and hangs. Tummy tuck. Extend softly towards the toes. And release. In line with the roots of the toes. And release. Toward the insteps. And release. Back toward the heel. Release, relax, body hangs. Tailbone lifts up behind. Tailbone gently pushes to the front. Spine rolls up. Head, arms, and ears gently roll up. Stretch up. Knees and hips drift forward as you lean back. Stretching up and gently back. Up and gently back. Up and gently back. Hands up into the blue sky. Left hand curls down. Right side of the body softly opens. Right hand curls down. Left side of the body gently open. Down on the left. And down on the right. Good. Draw hands up into the blue sky. Just a gentle stretch up. When we let the hands down the sides, the chi sort of follows downwards in the body, so you can sometimes feel this kind of settling as the hands come down. But we're going to do that first exercise once again. Second exercise, where we plug the hands in and we lift up. It acts as a kind of full stop to our Qigong exercises. So if you ever feel lightheaded or dizzy, this is the exercise to go to. You imagine drawing the Qi with your hands all the way down into your belly. Belly is where we sight the Qi. And then just letting the hands relax and imagine a kind of circuit, like an electrical circuit down to the earth, lifting up and pouring down, drawing down, bringing the Qi deep into the belly, the center of you, and then relaxing. And then one more time. Okay, so this exercise comes with its own codicil as well. If you're someone who has got very low blood pressure, be careful with this exercise because it helps to lower blood pressure. They use a variant of this exercise in China as a prescription for lowering blood pressure. So if you have low blood pressure, be careful with this. If you have high blood pressure, it's an excellent exercise. Also, in connection with things like stress, if you find that you're sort of, going through an airport and you're feeling very stressed, perhaps you can just find a moment in the loo and just sort of have a few moments of going and bringing yourself down and relaxing. Because what happens is that when we lose our center, when we lose our mind out, when we lose the center of ourselves, we can get very panicked and very lost. But when we return everything back, mind back to ourselves, mind back to the core of the body, this is how we bring ourselves back, and this is how we settle and how we bring focus back to our bodies. So just allow yourself to have your hands on your belly for a moment or two. It doesn't matter here whether you're sitting or standing, but we're just holding the belly button. One hand on top of the other. There's a very sort of potent acupuncture point in the center of your palm. And you've kind of got the center of one palm over the center of the other palm, over the belly button, over the energy field that sits deep inside, connected to the Ming Men, the point on the back. So we have this lovely sort of axis of energy through the core of the body, everything centering, everything calming. Okay, so just a few words about where we're going today. So let's just refer back to Master Lam, first of all, and his torturing of us with Chinese music. The Chinese music, I think, was there to try and to kind of take your mind away from the task of having to stand for 45, 50 minutes in a difficult posture. Okay, so in the sort of shortest form, if you like, the mind is in 95% of cases what makes us ill. So it's interesting. My Chinese teacher used to say to me, 90% of all illness comes from the mind. And then I read a lot of the work of Joe Dispenza, and he says 95% of the illness, comes from the mind. And I'm just wondering who's going to turn around and say 99% next, but it's kind of like a constant sort of inflation of this figure. But how can all of this illness come from the mind? It seems like such an extraordinary thing to say. Well, from a quantum physics perspective, it would suggest that consciousness, our consciousness, is being diverted by this life, as it were. And so the things that happen to us in this life get in the way of our pure consciousness, what Dr. Pang calls your true self. Constant worry, constant stress, the stress that society puts upon us, the things that society demands that we do, the things that our family tell us about ourselves, the things that our school pals tease us about, the things that our lovers threaten us with, or sue us for, or divorce us with. All of these things build up in your life, pattern after pattern after pattern. The book of your life, the manual of your life, as you go through it, page by page, there's yet another slight, another insult, another difficulty added. And right at the very end, perhaps at the beginning, I can't quite see my image, is your true self. And then from then onwards, all there is complication being piled on top, on top, on top, on top. And so, yeah, perhaps it's volumes of books. And the bottom book is the you born as your true self, the perfect version of you. And then volume number 1 is things that happened to you at birth, your childhood. Volume number 2, stacked on top, is all the things that the church tells you. Volume number 3 is all the things your family tell you. Volume number 4 is all the things your school tells you. Volume number 5 is society. Volume number 6 is bad relationships. And all of these are stacked on top of the initial volume 1 in a big heap on your table. And volume 1 is being crushed under the weight of all of the other tomes that you've gathered along the way. Your true self is almost squeezed out of existence by these things. So how do we return ourselves back to our true self? And why would we? Well, clearly, what we're trying to do is to get back to the original version of ourselves, the purest version that you've been, the perfect working version of you, where your DNA was uncluttered, where everything was working well, where your future was just potentiality, rather than sort of the crushing blows that have been delivered. And of course, that's all part of being human, isn't it? It's all part of life. It's all part of the choice we make, the choices we make. And so some schools of thought believe that we make these choices before we're born. Whether you buy to that theory or not, that's entirely up to you. But some people say that there's a pattern that's already set out for you before you arrive at this, if you believe in reincarnation and so forth. Before you arrive here, you've already said, okay, I want to work on my, this is why some people would be born disabled, for instance. They would have suggested, they would have decided they would like to have a difficult life in the karmic wheel, and that, they will struggle through with a disability of some sort, and that, that would move them forward in the sort of the karmic program. by taking on a difficult life rather than an easy life. And we all know those people who have extraordinarily charmed lives, who seem to just waft through life. You think, God, you must have chosen to have an easy life this time. Whatever the case, if you believe that or not, let's just say that, that's the true self, and that we've added these things ourselves, or perhaps they're just the bitter blows of life because we haven't been paying attention, whatever it might be. So there you are, a pure, perfect being that's been, let's say, polluted by life. And now we have to get rid of all that pollution. So we have to find a way back to the simplicity of ourself. And the most simple path is standing Qigong. I didn't, you'll notice, say the most easy path, because you've already been standing for 15, 20 minutes, and so you're probably already starting to feel it in the feet or in the knees or in the calves or perhaps the back. You're already starting to think, oh, this is a bit uncomfortable, what am I going to do? Well, I'd just like to take another little diversion and talk about mind activity. So one of the reasons that we do meditation, I believe, is to learn to school the mind. So we spend an awful lot of our time in Western education learning how to make the mind as busy as possible and, sharpen it as an incredible tool. But actually, my teacher, Lou, always talks about a town called Ibama. And Ibama is in the north of China. And it's one of the places that lots of anthropologists go to study the people who live there. The people who live in Ibama often live to be 105, 110 years old, perfectly healthy. And they sit there, they have all the usual habits. They smoke and they drink and things like that. And often, you find the men sitting on the streets all day long, smoking, doing no work, while the women slave away in the fields, a very kind of, tribal kind of thing. And still a very sort of, something that an anthropologist would want to study. They live in houses with mud floors. They drink sort of dirty water, and they still live to be this ripe old age. But he says, look at the mind activity. They don't worry themselves with mobile phones. They don't fret about what's coming next or who the next politician's going to be. They don't worry about nuclear war. That's way beyond their sort of comprehension. They don't have depths of study that's there to disturb their minds. They just have a very simple lifestyle. They work a couple of hours, sit a few hours, smoke and chat, socialize, eat, sleep, and then, carry on. And so this is the kind of way we would have been. We're still living in Stone Age brains, but now in an IT burning fire of IT, basically. And so the idea is, what can you do with your brain to calm that down? And I think that's why people practice meditation. It's about bringing their minds to a quiet place and marshalling the mind to stop it raging. Well, I don't really hold with meditation. I find that people get too involved in it and it can become quite an ego thing. Look at me, I can sit for 10 days in silence. Well, whoop-de-doo, it's a great achievement. Well done, but I think you've missed the point. I think what we need to do is learn how to marshal our mind and to bring our mind back to a very quiet state. But we need to move beyond meditation. We need to move into contemplation. We need to move to a place of very deep thought where we think about how we've got to where we are, and we start to dismantle that. We spend time in quiet mind, where the mind is not constantly roving out to do the shopping, wondering what's next. Also, roving around the body, complaining about, oh, my knees are so sore. I can't keep standing like this. Why is Jeremy torturing me? Oh, my goodness. You have to try and move beyond that as well. And that's a difficult thing to do. Standing Qigong is very challenging. Master Lam knew that. So he used to play this funny music to keep people kind of like, somehow entertained. And as you'll notice, I'm talking, lecturing, you're listening, but you're still standing. And I'm just really trying to create a sideline so you can stand a little bit longer. It's nice to have the theory. We like that for our Western minds. But ultimately, we're going to settle into a very simple standing posture, a very simple stance. But let me just talk about the standing posture first of all. When you stand, you try and keep your knees slightly bent. We unlock the knees so the chi flows well in the body. When we stand, we unlock the knees, and that gently shifts the weight forward into the toes. So you now find that you have 70% of the weight at the foot at the front, 60% at the front and 40% on the heel. If you stand on your heel for an hour, the blood's going to stop flowing, and like the soldiers on parade, you'll just fall flat on your face because you've kind of like lost the flow of blood and then you faint. And so what happens is that we stand with the knees bent, with the weight gently forward onto the toe, and that just means that the blood flows well through the foot. But it also connects an energy point on the sole of your foot that allows chi to flow up from the earth into your body. So by bending the knee, we get this lovely connection to the earth. The next thing we're going to talk about is tailbone. There are two instructions for tailbone. Sit tailbone down. Okay, so sit tailbone down is part of that bend your knees story. You bend the knees, the tailbone sits down, and we almost imagine that we're sitting on a kind of like a dining room chair, sitting straight down, nice straight back. The other instruction is move tailbone forwards. So we just tuck the tailbone forwards. So when we're doing our swirl hips exercise, which many of you might have seen, we lift the tailbone up at the back, we swing the tailbone forwards to the front, back and forth and all this sort of stuff. We're not talking about a big movement like that. We're talking about sitting the tailbone down so the tailbone is straight. And we're talking about inclining the tailbone forwards just a few millimeters. Okay, so I want to show you the example that I always show with swirl hips. When we stand and we have our tailbone back, the lower back is closed. When we stand and we move our tailbone forward, the lower back opens. So that's the thing we're looking for, is opening Ming Men, point that sits here. So as you stand here, you sit your tailbone down, you gently tuck the tailbone forwards, and you'll feel a little adjustment, a little straightening of the lower back. So we're only moving the tailbone forward, what, a centimeter, something like that, and then sit down. Think about the spine, nice and long and straight. Bai Hui sits on top of the head. It's the crown of the head, called Bai Hui. And we're just basically trying to lift that up to the blue sky. So when you have the tailbone going down and Bai Hui lifting up, the spine becomes as long and as straight as it can. And because you've got this lovely straight spine, then lots of qi is flowing up and down your back as well. So it invigorates the flow of qi in your spine. The last thing we have to pay attention to is the chin. And whilst the tailbone moves forward, the chin has to move gently backward. So it's almost like tucking the chin backwards towards the spine, but that's only a couple of, half a centimeter as well. So maybe the tailbone moves forward half a centimeter and the chin tucks backward half a centimeter. But what happens with both of those little movements is that when you move the tailbone forward, the lower back straightens. And when you tuck the chin backward, the cervical spine straightens. And now we've got the straightest spine we possibly could, with tailbone drawing down, knees bent, back straight. Let's talk about the downside of standing. Sometimes your feet feel like they're going to go on fire. Oh my goodness, my feet are so sore, pins and needles, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, there's no point in destroying the whole thing for yourself. Why not just, give the feet a little shake occasionally, just shuffle them around a little bit and then try and go back to your standing posture. Sink into the knees. But that makes my knees hurt. Okay, straighten your legs up a little bit, sink into your knees again. Straighten up, sink into your knees. Try and keep yourself in that posture as long as you can. I get a pain between my shoulder blades. So sometimes we find that there's especially when we're standing with our hands in front of us, which we'll see a bit later, you often get a pain between your shoulder blades. I find that lifting the breastbone up a tiny bit helps the lower back. So sometimes when we stand, our upper bodies can kind of gently fold forwards. The chest can slightly close, the shoulders can slightly round. But if we lift up the center of the chest, that straightens that out. And so if you find a pain between your shoulder blades, try lifting that a bit. Pain in the lower back, move the tailbone forwards. Pain in the neck, just move the chin back a little bit, try and get the neck long. We're constantly making micro adjustments. So when they say standing Qigong, people get an idea, and especially from its old-fashioned names. The old-fashioned name for it was Jam Jong, and Jam Jong translates as standing like a post. And I always thought to myself, God, that, such a rigid kind of thing. But someone said to me, no, it's often translated as standing like a tree. And if you think about a giant tree on the meadow, everything is constantly gently in motion. Everything is tiny movements. So if you find yourself softly swaying back and forwards, if you find yourself having to adjust your feet from time to time, no problem. The last thing I would say about standing meditation is that it can also be sitting meditation. And when you sit, there's a little note to make about that as well. When we stand, we tuck the tailbone forwards and push the small of the back backwards. When we sit, it's the reverse. We push Ming Men, the small of the back, forwards and get a nice straight back that way. So our sitting posture sees the knees at right angle, sees the back nice and straight, sees the lower back tucked forward, chin tucked in, sitting in this posture. So what I suggest to people is that we do standing Qigong with a chair behind us. And when we finally get to the stage where we can't stand anymore, you can sit down and carry on without losing your mind set, as it were. Okay. So we have our standing Qigong story where we're just allowing the Qi to flow. You've opened your body in such a way that there's a perfect flow of energy from the earth coming up, from the heavens coming down. And as you relax your body and you relax your mind, you just dissolve gently into the Qi field around you. You just move back into oneness with everything. We quieten our mind down. Sometimes the mind wants to rage along. God, what is Jeremy talking about? I can't stand this. Isn't it time to finish? What time is it? And the mind goes prattling on. So sometimes all you need to do is take a breath, gentle breath in. And then imagine as you breathe out that everything in your body focuses downwards, deep into your belly. And then just go back to gentle breathing. So when you find you've lost your mind, when you finally catch yourself in the cheese aisle in Waitrose, you can then sort of reel yourself back and say, okay, come on, you need to bring the mind back now. And the mind is just like a small child. It runs off at a moment's notice. You have to occasionally say, come on, back you come, dear, back inside. And so my single breath idea that I use, I imagine that my nostrils, it's a bit of a weird image, but anyway, I imagine that my nostrils sort of point up into the center of my brain. So the center of the brain is the center of upper dantian. So I imagine almost like a line of Qi going straight up my nostrils and straight into the center of my brain, and it kind of illuminates the center of the brain. And then when I breathe out, it's almost like the Qi takes an elevator, goes down from the upper dantian, down through your throat into the middle dantian, all the way down to the basement lower dantian. So it's just one simple breath in, breathing in through the nostrils, illuminate the center of the brain, breathing down, illuminate lower dantian. As teacher Lu always says, bring the Qi back to the Qi home. Qi home is deep inside your belly. Qi bedroom, deep inside your belly. So if your mind has wandered off, take a gentle breath in through your nostrils. As you breathe out, settle your mind deep down inside your belly once more behind your hands. Nice and easy breathing. So see, you've been standing for a long time now, probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. Still managing to do it. If you're sitting, that's very good too. Hopefully your mind steadies itself. The idea of the first 20 minutes exercise is the mind just gets lulled into a gentle rhythm of those exercises and slowly starts to switch itself off. And then we go into our standing meditation. And the mind just starts to settle and calm and relax. Okay. So when you stand, for a little while with your knees bent. Sometimes you're going to start to feel your legs trembling. What's going on there? Sometimes you just think, oh, I'm going to have to sit down. I don't have the energy to do this. What's going on there? Well, these are all signs of a deficiency of qi. Why do we have a deficiency of qi? Well, the ideas are rich and varied. They're all the things I was talking about before: society, problems, family, religion. All of these things take our energy. We're constantly connected to them. We're constantly thinking about what we have to do next, thinking about the war, thinking about our problems, thinking about our illness. That's exhausting. That takes a massive amount of qi to support the brain function. And so the body becomes very depleted when we overuse the mind. So try to quieten the mind, stop the mind from talking. Sometimes just a gentle breath in will do it. Try and leave the mind in neutral. Mind is a bit like a glass of champagne. You pour it and all the bubbles are furiously bubbling up, blah, 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 blah. You leave it for about 10 minutes and then eventually it's just one bubble, two bubbles, and then eventually the bubbles stop. Same with your mind. If it's chattering away, don't worry. It'll settle down. I often imagine something like a windscreen wiper or a board rubber. You gazing out, and then an idea pops up and you can just take your windscreen wiper and just push the idea away to one side. Don't have to engage with it. Just let it go. Anything can be picked up later. The mind says, hey, haven't we got to call, so-and-so? Just brush it gently to the side. You won't forget it. It'll arrive later. Just not now. Don't deal with it now. Just leave the brain quiet. So what happens when we find this stability? What am I suggesting that we do with this? So we've done our warm-up exercises, get the qi moving. Now we're doing our standing exercises. And the point about a standing exercise is that it's the most efficient way to gather qi into your body. The more qi you have in your body, the less your legs will shake, the less tired you'll become when you do this exercise, because the legs shaking and the tiredness are signs that you've used up too much energy, and now you need to restore that energy. The fact that our hands are still sitting on the belly is about gathering qi back into the belly. The fact that we're standing here with our knees bent and our head up in the blue sky means that we're already plugged into that qi circuit, gathering energy into the body. The fact that we're stilling our mind means that we're stopping energy from being wasted. And so this is the healing posture. This is how we gather qi deep inside. I've often repeated the story about Madame Wang, and I'll tell you one more time. It won't be the last, I'm sure. I met Madame Wang in Hainan Island. Madame Wang had had breast cancer twice and had cured herself twice. She decided every morning that she was going to stand for 2 hours on her own. She used to go and stand on the roof of the center we were in. Beautiful nature around, palm trees, flights of cranes. It was just beautiful, a beautiful lake in front. She would stand there on the roof, doing exactly what we're doing now, for 2 hours in the morning, and then she'd stand in the practice hall for 2 hours in the evening. Nothing else, just silence, just deep stillness, just healing. She did this when she was younger, in her 50s, when she discovered that she had breast cancer. I think in 40s, actually, when she discovered she had breast cancer. She healed her breast cancer in a month. And then, foolishly, She did exactly what most people do. She rushed straight back to work, straight back to the stress. I'm healed, and off we go again. And about 10 years later, her breast cancer was back, or maybe 7 years later, I forget. Her breast cancer was back. She came to Jamshed's Centre once more, and she took up exactly the same routine. 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, standing in utter stillness and silence. Within 3 weeks, her breast cancer had gone. Then Jamshed discovered that she was addicted to prescription painkillers. So within 3 weeks, they'd weaned her off those just by doing a standing qigong. She'd given up painkillers and was now pain-free. And then he discovered that she was an insomniac. And after 3 weeks, the insomnia was cured too. So it took her a total of 9 weeks to cure breast cancer, drug addiction, and insomnia, just using standing qigong. Madam Wang was fantastic. I met her about 2 or 3 years afterwards. She'd basically given up her power job and had decided just to become a teacher and live in the center with Jamshed. She'd healed herself twice there, and so she had a great affinity with the place. You can do the same. Nothing to stop you. Madam Wang wasn't some Chinese superhero of any sort. She was just a normal businesswoman. But she had a very focused mind, and that's just it. Our minds can run away at a moment's notice. She decided to keep her mind on the job every day without fail. And very soon her mind complied. Should you do standing qigong every day? Absolutely. It's the absolute cornerstone of healing. How long? Can you do 20 minutes? Can you do 30 minutes? Can you do an hour? Everybody can eventually, but sometimes you have to build it up. Sometimes we have to use an inner courage. The biggest distraction is the mind. The mind says, oh, it's so boring. I don't want to do this. I like to do something quick. Can't we do dancing, kung fu? Can't we watch YouTube? Whatever. But no, the answer is keep the mind on the task. Call it back again and again until it finally stays. Settle and relax into your qigong. Trust that you have the ability to find your true self through standing. As you stand here in quiet, you're connecting with your true self. You're connecting with the vastness of the universe. Let's just do that. Imagine your whole body dissolving into the room around you. As you dissolve out into the room around you, imagine connecting with your town or your city, connecting with the countryside around you, connecting with your county, connecting with your country, connecting with your continent. And then eventually we start to be able to zoom back, if you like, and you can imagine the whole of our beautiful blue planet in front of you. Imagine our whole solar system. In your mind's eye, you can see the sun and the planets, the Milky Way, far off. Imagine the galaxy, how it feels. Imagine the vastness of the entirety of our universe. Feel that you can expand out, out, out. Dissolve out, out, out. When you let go at this level, all of your problems can gently dissolve too. They're so tiny in comparison to this vastness of the universe. Let relationship issues go. Let family stories go. Let family illnesses go. Let go of problems with our children, with our parents, with our grandparents. Let go with problems with our work and with money. Everything is just tiny when we think about it on this vast universal scale. You have the entirety of the universe at your disposal. Why not use it well? Draw back vast healing, thinking about coming back to our solar system, our galaxies and solar system, finding our beautiful blue planet, drawing back with all this incredible healing energy back towards our country, city, town, our workspace, and eventually back inside our bodies. At one moment, I ask you to expand yourself out into the vastness of the universe. The next moment, I ask you to draw back the healing chi of the universe into your body. When you let go at the deepest level, let go of every essence of you, let go of everything that makes up you. And when you bring back, just bring back the best bits, the healing bits, the bits that you want in your life. So this is called open. And at the same time, you can open your hands. So if you want to take them off your belly, you can open your hands out like opening a ball. And then when you bring back the resources of the universe, you can start to close that ball back towards your belly. So it doesn't really matter what size you're doing this in. It doesn't matter whether you're sitting or standing. You can use a tiny ball in front of the belly and open and expand and bring it back, or you can expand out into the vastness of everything. Let go and open out everything and bring it back. So whatever you feel like today, draw back healing chi deep inside your body. As we open, all of our old problems gently dissolve. As we close, we bring back this incredible healing deep inside every cell. Bring it back at a chi level. Bring it back at a DNA level. Bring it back at a cellular level. When you open, let's say DNA problems dissolve. And then when you come back, perfect working DNA with long telomeres on the end, which gives you a long life. Expand and open. Problems with the cells of the body disappear out into the blue sky. Let them go. You don't need them anymore. Bring back perfect healing cells. Perhaps you want to work at an atomic level. Who knows? Going deep, deep inside the atoms of our body, letting them expand out and gathering back the vastness of the universe to heal our body. Perhaps you want to take an organ, perhaps like a lungs or heart or something like that. Let it dissolve out into the universe. Bring it back at perfect working order. See it perfect. Think about bone, marrow, muscles. Just let them dissolve out into the universe. Bring back perfect healing, strength, power, deep inside the body. Perhaps the brain needs to be healed. Open up and dissolve the brain out into the blue sky. You can imagine your brain. It's almost like a sort of one of those diagrams, mechanical diagrams, where they let everything, all the tiny little bits dissolve out. And then you sort of bring them all back together again, back into a perfect working brain, everything working well. Whole body, let go, dissolve out. Come back in with a perfect healing. You can just gently move the hands back and forth and work with whatever it is you wish. I was trying to think of something that was like a mechanical thing I studied when I was younger, and I can't quite think what the name of it is. It's when you take like an engine, and then you see all the little bits spread out on the page, this nut here and this bolt here, and and they're all numbered, kind of like a something diagram. I can't remember, a fly diagram. Anyway, you can imagine your whole body, kind of every single part, just dissolving out, every single little bit separate, you in about 1 billion trillion pieces. And then you can bring them all back together again and reassemble them in a perfect working version of you. Gently open and dissolve. Play with the idea. It doesn't have to be serious. Have fun with it. Just let your whole body float off. Let everything go and come back. But of course, there's other things we can dissolve as well. past relationships with, grandpa, with dad, whatever, just see the past just gently dissolving, let go of all the old problems from the past, things that have bugged you for years. And then when you come back, bring back happiness into your life. You don't have to, rebuild the story. You don't have to tell a new story. All you can do is let go of the things that have troubled you for so long. Let go of the things that have marked your life and made you who you are. And then just come back with happiness and joy. Just fill your life with that happiness and joy. None of us needs to be miserable or upset or angry or cross anymore. Just let go and let go and let go and let go and let go forever. Let it finally go. And then bring back happiness and joy and healing into your life. Deep inside, bring this healing deep into your life. Now we just stand here for a moment and just scan through the body, letting the body heal. Scan through your past, scan through your future. Let everything change and heal. Nothing need remain the same anymore. I give you total permission to heal. Now you have to give your body total permission to heal. No holds barred, no ifs or buts, just absolute healing. Why not? Ultimately, we all want joy and happiness in our lives. We want to be healthy. So finally give your permission at the deepest, deepest level of your being to let go and no longer hold that problem. How does that feel? Imagine that. Gone forever. You no longer need to have those problems in your life. Beautiful. This is what real healing is. This is how we release the problems from our minds. And as soon as we let go of those problems in our minds and truly let go at the deepest of levels, then the body says, oh, okay, well, if we don't have that problem anymore, let's just start to go back to the healing process. Your body is desperate to heal. It's like a little puppy. It wants to please you. It really wants to do its best. But you have to get the poisonous patterns out of the way so that the body can do its healing. So let's be happy today. Let's imagine our bodies with their little puppy tails wagging, healing gently, happily, the whole thing joyful. This doesn't have to be serious. This can be fun. This can be nice. This can be enjoyable. This can be happy. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the process at the deepest level. Like when you walk out of the front door into the sunshine, and you stand there for a moment, and the rays of the sun bathe your body, and you just think, oh, that is beautiful, as you feel the warmth on your skin. Just feel that throughout the whole of your body. Put a smile through the whole of your body. And then eventually I think we should just draw our hands gently back towards the belly once more. So we can just gather a ball of chi and just apply this chi deep inside the belly and just hold it deep inside. I would encourage you to do this every day. If you're working with a chronic disease, do it 2 times a day. Could you do it 3 times a day? I've told you about the teacher, Isabel, who I work with. She was one of my student teachers who then qualified as a teacher. She healed herself of MS. And she basically said, I took it on as a job and I did it for 4 hours every day. I clocked on at 8:30 and I clocked off at 12:30 for my lunch. And in the 4 hours there, I just did Qigong all morning, different types. She did some exercises, some sitting, some meditation, some La Qi healing as we've just done. What would stop you from taking that? What would stop you saying to yourself, right, from now until July the 31st, I'm going to do 4 hours of Qigong every morning, dedicated. And by the end of that, I will be healed. My cancer will be gone, my diabetes, my heart disease, whatever, will be gone. So why not? What's to stop you? Why not dedicate this portion of your life to healing yourself? We've given ourselves 30, 40, 50 years of allowing everything to gently decay and end up with a problem. And now we're going to have to invest some time, but not a lot of time. But why not take it as your opportunity now? Take this clarion call from me to heal yourself today and every day, and do it for 100 days. I have a 100-day, it's called a gong, G-O-N-G, 100-day gong sheet that I can send to you if you want to email me and ask for the sheet. And it's a tick box, and every day you put a smiley face up. You say, day 36 of my gong, day 75 of my gong. And after 100 days, everything will have changed. Okay. You have all of my love and support in this process. Held in the chi field. We're all in this chi field together. I practice in the chi field every day. You too can practice in the chi field every day. Dr. Pang is in the chi field every day. In his practice, all of the teachers, Lun Ling, and the hundreds of teachers around the thousands of teachers around the world, the millions upon millions of students all practice in this chi field, supporting you. So practice in the chi field every day. Bring about complete healing. And then it'll be your turn to help other people heal themselves. A new direction for your life. Fix you first, then fix other people afterwards. Spread the word. Okay, so we're just going to bring our feet together. We're just going to draw circles around the belly button. So I tend to go anti-clockwise, but don't panic, whatever way you want to go. Rub 3 circles around the belly button. That just sort of brings everything back into the center, brings all the chi back into the center of the body. Then we go around 3 circles in the opposite direction. Good. That sort of sends a message to the body. Our healing session finishes here. We have to go back out into kind of daily life, as it were. And so we just need to reset ourselves. As you stand here, just see yourself, every cell in your body filled with chi, every cell in your body working well, every cell in your body healing, illuminated by chi, blood and chi flowing well. As you stand here, imagine your Wei Qi layer. So that's kind of like a layer of Qi around your body. It's sort of an inch of Qi around your skin. It's like a protective field of energy. Just imagine this glowing field of energy around you, protecting you. And then just imagine your Qi body, which is a sort of meter in front, meter behind, left, right, up and down. A beautiful bubble of Qi protects you and connects you. So you see yourself as this being of light inside these wonderful Qi shields. Everything in your body working well. All functions of your body returning to perfect working order. Just in a moment, anything can change. Just in a moment, anything can heal if you let it. All functions normal. All functions of your body normal. Put a big smile on your face. Slowly open the eyes. Let the hands down by your sides. Wiggle the fingers, move the toes a bit, have a little stretch out. Okay, so to finish off our healing session, we always say Hao Le. So Hao Le means good already. Everything is already sorted. So what I'm going to just try and do first is see if I can just bring the focus onto me only. Spotlight. Oh, yes, spotlight. I think that's right. So in theory, none of you guys will be recorded at the end of this session. And then what we do is we put our hands up in the air and we shout Hao Le. So Hao Le is Chinese for everything is already sorted. Everything is good already. And that's kind of a nice affirmation. You know, everything's fixed. So we'll do that 3 times. So put the hands up in the air. 1, 2. Hao Le.
La.
1, 2. Hao Le.
La.
Last time. 1, 2. Hao Le.
La.
Lovely. We've got a little salute for each other. You take your right hand and you bring it up in front of you, left hand on top, and then you draw the fingers together, put the thumbs on the end. Oh, thank you very much for being here, guys. It's lovely to work with you today. And please send this video around to your friends. I'll put it up online shortly and then share it out throughout the world. Thank you.